Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and Microsoft finally won. Yes, we are going to talk about the clown show that was the FTC versus Xbox, and then we also have some major Game Pass titles to talk about, as well as some big new games for the Nintendo Switch 2 and for the Xbox Series. It's really just a matter of when by this point, and we will get into all of that today. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with a potential Bioshock announcement. I mean, we've known about Bioshock 4 for some time now. 2K confirmed its existence, I believe it was about 5 years ago. I mean, if you think about that, that's right around the average time for modern AAA development. Anywhere between 4 to 7 years seems to be where a lot of these AAA games fall. So I'd say with that in mind, an incoming announcement seems very plausible. And, well, according to MP First, they allegedly obtained information that leads them to believe that a Bioshock announcement will happen fairly soon, and likely before the end of the summer. Now, the only thing about this is that they currently don't know which Bioshock project this information is referring to. Technically, yes, it could be Bioshock 4, and I know that's what everybody wants to hear about. But it could also be the upcoming Netflix film as one such example, or it could even be a remake of the first game. While a remake has yet to be confirmed, MP First speculated that based on their information, that very much could be one possibility because Rapture will play a significant role. Again, that could also be referring to the Netflix film. Either which way, though, I mean, if you're a Bioshock fan, then go ahead and buckle up because a new announcement seems to be closing in, and it seems to be closing in fast. Now, we also got another and final update for the Microsoft versus FTC saga. For my longtime viewers, you all know that this has been one of my most covered topics on the channel. I hope I steered you all through one of the biggest gaming stories ever, and I'm happy to say that we can now officially put this case to rest. Today, the FTC decided to drop their lawsuit against the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Now, as I told you all back then, I'm going to go and repeat it here. This was always going to be the end result. The reality is that despite what some people online wanted you to believe, the FTC always had a very weak case, and they made that very clear every single time they showed up in court completely unprepared with unfounded accusations. This is why you follow me, because I can stay objective about this type of stuff. I'm not just going to simply base everything off of emotions and just lead you all in an unfounded direction. To me, it was always very clear that they had some very nonsensical arguments against this acquisition, and it never felt like they were truly fighting for consumers, which is kind of what their job is supposed to be. Instead, it felt like they were fighting for Sony, which was kind of weird, and it was just really a clown show, and I don't think that there's any other way to put it. Not only that, though, but their case has actually gotten even worse this past year, now that Xbox is partially multi-platform. So they just don't have a leg to stand on, and yeah, it's time for them to move on and to stop wasting everybody's time, and more importantly, everybody's money. Now, let's go and stick with Xbox here for a moment, though, because a couple of different things are currently happening. One is that they revealed their next wave of Xbox Game Pass games, which includes a Game of the Year contender, and then we also have a brand new Day 1 release to talk about that was just announced today. So let's just kind of first look here at the more immediate games, which includes Metaphor Refantasio, The Division 2, Tales of Kanzaro Zal, 2AT, Monster Train 2, Spray Paint Simulator, Crypt Custodian, Symphonia, Creatures of Ava, and then last but not least, Stalker 2 for you standard subscribers. Now, do keep in mind here that some of these games are only for Ultimate subscribers. Just kind of pay attention to which game is releasing in which tier. But if you are an Ultimate subscriber, then I'd easily say the big inclusion here is Metaphor Refantasio. This was a Game of the Year contender just last year. And that's the thing. This is still a fairly new game, and it's widely considered an all-time great JRPG. It comes from some of the Persona creators. If you like those games, then you're probably going to like this. And quite frankly, it is another Shin Megami Tensei entry, just under a different coat of paint with a new fantasy setting. Truthfully, though, If you like JRPGs and if you like Atlas games, this is a must-play experience for both its gameplay and also for its story. It's exceptional, and there's a reason that it was tied as the highest rated game last year with a 94 overall score. If you haven't already played it, here's your chance. It'll launch in the Game Pass on May 29th. One of the things that I like to pay attention to when it comes to Game Pass games, though, are reoccurring partnerships. To me, that's always a good indication of a publisher finding success on the platform, and Atlas and Sega have been a mainstay for about 2 to 3 years now. Persona 5, Persona 3 Reload, Persona 5 Tactica, and now Metaphor ReFantazio have all been a part of Xbox Game Pass. So I think that says a lot about Sega and Xbox's relationship when it comes to Game Pass. Clearly, Sega is having some success here. They see the value in Game Pass, which actually also includes the Yakuza franchise as well. Now, one other Game Pass title that we need to talk about here, though, isn't a part of this list, but it was announced today as a Day 1 Game Pass launch, and I'm talking about Space Marine Master Crafted Edition. Space Marine 2 was a huge hit last year. It ended up selling 4.5 million units as of October of 2024, so it's likely a lot higher than that now. And it's really been a fan favorite ever since it first launched. So, I mean, it actually makes a lot of sense to bring back the original 2011 game with a remastered edition. It comes included with enhanced visuals, 4K resolution, modernized controls, an interface overhaul, improved character models, and also remastered audio. And all this will be available as a Day 1 Game Pass release on June 10th. So that Game Pass lineup continues its hot streak well into June. I mean, if you haven't already had enough fun with games like Oblivion, Expedition 33, and Doom: The Dark Ages, well, now you're soon going to have ReFantazio and also Space Marine on top of that. Of course, we also have Tony Hawk right around the corner, so yeah, you Game Pass subscribers are just living the good life. Now, it'll also launch on PC. Space Marine 2 was a massive hit on Steam last year, but to some surprise, as of right now, there's currently no PlayStation 5 version. Now, my guess is that will happen at a later date. I don't expect this to be a permanent Xbox console exclusive, but for right now, it will only launch on PC and on the Xbox Series. Either way, Space Marine will soon be back in a big way. That's not quite everything for Xbox, though. It's actually been a pretty big day for them because there's also yet another leak for Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth, and 16 for Xbox. Now, these rumors have been swirling around for about 2 years now, and Nate was asked about it on Twitter here recently, in which he simply responded that Final Fantasy is still coming to Xbox. Now, he didn't exactly say which Final Fantasy game that he's referring to, but just kind of given everything that we've already heard, it's easy to assume that he's talking about the remakes and Final Fantasy XVI. For that matter, Square Enix has basically confirmed this on various different occasions without dropping names. It seems fairly clear, though, that their new leadership wants to aggressively become more multi-platform, which includes both the Switch 2 and Xbox. In fact, they've already announced the first remake for the Switch 2, and I'd say really it's only a matter of time before we hear news about Rebirth and some Xbox versions as well. Now, admittedly, they are doing these announcements a little bit different than what you might expect. They've been kind of coy in revealing all of that information at once. But my guess here is that they believe staggered announcements will constantly keep them in the news. That way, more gamers will know about them in the long run. They want to get that word of mouth rolling. Regardless, though, the E3 season is upon us, so there's a potential chance that we could get a more formal announcement as early as the Summer Game Fest or even at the Xbox Summer Showcase, which is only a few short weeks away. Now, one last thing before we go, we also got a Switch 2 confirmation for a game that just released, being Fantasy Life-I. Like, this is actually one of the craziest releases of 2025 thus far. For whatever reason, it launched yesterday, and there's just not been a lot of buzz online for it. I mean, there's still only 2 critic reviews as of this recording, one being an 8 and another being a 9. But for whatever reason, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of coverage for it. Despite that, though, it's still finding a lot of success on Steam. It's already surpassed 30,000 concurrent players, which is very impressive for a smaller game like this without a lot of advertising. Now, Steam is getting the word out. It's actually on their front page, and good thing because fans seem to adore this game. It currently has a 92% positive Steam rating, and I've also watched a few YouTubers review it, and universally, it seems to be very well received. So I feel like this is one of those games that's going to grow through word of mouth over time, and it could actually quietly be one of the better games of 2025. And that word of mouth could actually accelerate even more once it launches onto the Nintendo Switch 2. As discovered by Gamatsu, Level 5 recently confirmed a Switch 2 version on their website, though currently we don't have an exact release date for it. What we currently know is that it will have an upgrade path if you already own the Switch 1 edition, and the upgrade will include higher resolution and higher frame rate. So this really might be one of the better early Switch 2 titles. I mean, it fits perfectly for the system. This is a sequel to a beloved 3DS game after all, and it's just got that art style that pairs very well with Nintendo consoles. Its gameplay also fits perfectly with Nintendo fans. So definitely don't sleep on this game. I myself might actually pick this one up as soon as it gets its Switch 2 edition. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.